Little clip cross, Memo Rodriguez, good save, and the rebound is bundled home. Memo Rodriguez with two. Out to Wester to the far side. Rossi let it fly. Diego Rossi, what a hit. Could this be Chicharito's moment to get his first LA Galaxy goal? No, it's saved. The rebound covered up in the end by Clark.
And Beric all the way. And defensive shortcomings of Seattle lead to the Slovenian Robert Beric firing the fire in front.
A lot of goals in this one, and always a powerful statement. We see BWP there making his debut for LAFC. We'll pick it up in the 9th minute, and I'm just going to let you take this, Kaylin, because I know you're dying to talk about Memo.
How long do we have to talk about Memo?
I know. It's,
I mean,
you're going to have your chance, I promise. But, okay, speaking of BWP, check this out. In the 19th minute, BWP back to doing what he does best, and that is scoring goals, putting himself in a great position to slide this one home. That moves him up to 7th.
Put himself in good positions is something we've seen from him in the past. The 99 flipped upside down, but the same runs, the same movement in the box, and the same finishing ability. Really good start from him, promising, but the first half was really the story was Memo and the Dynamo. This was called offside originally, but then was called back. Right decision there. At least does a really good job to get on the end of it, puts it towards the back post, and Houston had all the momentum in the first half going into halftime.
Until this. They were up 3-1 at half, and then Diego Rossi comes around and reminds you that he can do things like that. Which makes it a 3-2 game. So suddenly this is very, very interesting. And then a nice little sequence here. And Brian Rodriguez with the slick finish. That is his first goal with LAFC at last.
Yeah, he's been dangerous. That will get him off the mark. But it was really Latif Blessing who had the patience, that extra moment of pause to get LAFC back.
That pass was so darn pretty. Okay, let's move it along to the other game last night. The Galaxy and Chicharito taking on the Portland Timbers. Chicharito has not scored an MLS goal. Will that change? No, not right there, because Steve Clark said nah.
Great job on the follow-up, too. He reads it all the way, but then shows the quickness to get up there to stop Sasha from getting the second one. And you could see the emotion from the manager.
Gio Severese loved it. All right.
This is a lovely little pass here from Valeri.
Oh, gosh. And this is so well done. And look at Jeremy Ebobisse just in the right place, slots it home.
It looks a little bit like a 7-a-side goal where you draw the keeper out a little bit, and then Blanco does a good job to pick his head up and just puts it right on the foot of Ebobisse, who just kind of uses his body to create some leverage and knock it on frame. But this is where the Galaxy really let themselves down, Susanna.
My
this
goodness.
is really unforgivable
Sebastian
defending.
Blanco just had his way against the LA Galaxy
We just
defense.
wants it more.
Look
he just
at
wants
the
it more.
work
It's
rate.
pretty simple.
The nice left-footed
Just walking
finish
through two
there.
defenders.
Okay, but the 88th minute, we were waiting for it. At long last, Chicharito finally scores his first MLS goal. The monkey is off his back, and this is very Chicharito fashion, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit too late for the Galaxy to get any points out of it, but they'll be happy to see that he's off the mark and stop answering questions about when he will finally get his first goal. And they still find themselves at the bottom. Like we went into this, and I said, I don't think this is so straightforward. LAFC and the Galaxy, everyone wanted to just kind of pencil them through to the end of the next round. And look at the group now. You've got Portland on top with 3 points, and it's still all to play for. This
up
group is
for
closer than
grabs. Up for grabs. All right. Well, let's listen to Chicharito after the game and finally notching that first goal in MLS. Let's hear it.
Well, as a striker, we all know that sometimes that happens. You know, you can have 10 chances and then you can miss 9 and score 1, and there's some games that you just have 1 and then you score it. But yeah, like you said it in the beginning, it's not the greatest taste to score your first goal with a loss like this one, and then when you miss a penalty, obviously. So I told the lads that this one was on me. I always believe in this sport, even when sometimes the goal scorer can score the last minute goal, you know, he's not a hero. And for example, that I missed the penalty or someone can have a mistake, it's not his only fault. But yeah, I think the whole team did a fantastic effort. We finished this game how we supposed to start.
Okay, so Chicharito basically saying, this one's on me, guys. And yeah, it wasn't a great performance. There was obviously the missed penalty here, and then there was another opportunity. He had a wide open chance that he just missed earlier on in the game, and he did get the goal in the 88th minute, but as you said, a little too late. Kalen, do you think that late goal, though, will kind of get him started? Is that what he just needed, just to get that monkey off his back?
Yes, it will help a lot. When you have a striker that isn't confident, sometimes you say, okay, I thought the penalty call for him was going to be a great thing, because you're like, all right, here's an easy chance to maybe just get things off the mark. But the funny thing about penalties is it also gives you time to think. And from there, you saw the next chance come, and the confidence is where it seemed to really drop off there, where he missed an easy chance where you would bank on him to put that away. But he stuck with it. He grew into the match. In about the 60th minute, he had that header kind of over the shoulder. And sometimes I think he's better with movement and not in stationary positions, and where he doesn't really have time to react. I think most of his goals come off first-time finishes. You saw the instinctive run where he sort of recycles it, comes around for Sebastian Lletget. So I think those are the situations they need to find Chicharito in, because when he's static and when the Galaxy are static, which they were for most of the first half and into the second half, it really wasn't until things opened up and Portland got that red card that things started to open up, and that the Galaxy were able to get into some transition moments, which for me will be key for them if they want to find success.
Well, they've got LAFC waiting in the wings. This is obviously a match that a lot of people will have circled on their calendars. These games always seem to produce some pretty magic moments. Did the Galaxy have a shot? Did they have a shot to advance out of this group?
Absolutely. I think a lot of teams will be looking at that Houston film to see where LAFC can leave some space. And LAFC plays a certain style. They play high, they counter press. If you can get past that first line of pressure, you can find some space, specifically in the wings. Houston did a good job of finding Elise in the flanks, getting them isolated one-on-one. LAFC sends their outside backs high, and that leaves Jakovic and Segura. If you drag them out of position, you can see what Elise was able to do there, as well as Memo. But if you look at what the Galaxy need to do, there's been moments in transition where they can find success. When they are static, when they have to go against a low block, they cannot break them down. Here's a play against the Galaxy last year where they win a turnover and they find it out on the break. This is where you find joy. Pavone, one-on-one, lines them up, and finds the finish here. They didn't find enough of these positions here where they're able to win turnovers here and turn the other teams around. And this is where you get Chicharito, this is where you get Pavone running one-on-one. You turn this into a 4v4, essentially, which is where the Galaxy's goal came from in this last match as well, where it's just the tempo needs to be quicker, turning from back to front. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to turn over LAFC that many times in positions like this, but if they're looking for space, they have to find moments of transition where they can get Pavone isolated, 1v1, and Chicharito running in the box.
All right, Kalen, I promised you I would give you an opportunity to talk about Memo Rodriguez and your Houston Dynamo, and this is it. Memo. I mean, 2 goals in that 3-3 draw against LAFC, and he's such a special player, but you have known this for a long time. Why is he so good?
Well, I'm not sure I can take credit for knowing that he was going to be this good, but he was training with the first team when he was a young player in the academy. I think he's maybe 15 years old, and he was always the guy that our first team would pick from the young bunch as far as getting in the 7-a-side. He was responsible. He would track his man. He was technically very good. He always had that little quick trigger here. If you look, it doesn't take him a lot of time to get a shot off. He works well in tight spaces. He's shifty, and he has the ability to really turn teams around. And he's smart. He plays 1-2, technical player. There were more talented players, I would say, in the Dynamo Academy, but most of them didn't pan out. I really think it's his mentality. You see here, even just his willingness to get into the box. He's a gamer, Susanna. He's just a winner, a kid that I think has a real personality and wants to be involved. So to see him, I mean, he already had a breakout year last year with 7 goals, but I really think this is still just the beginning of what we're going to see for Memo Rodriguez.
I mean, Houston came out; they were in control in that first half. Is Houston in the same way that kind of you mentioned Chicago? Sort of had nothing to lose. Is Houston a team that can kind of be, quote unquote, like a dark horse in this tournament?
Well, I think so. But yeah, of course, I am biased. But I do think, just as we talked about teams that would do well in this unique circumstance, in this unique challenge of a tournament, the Houston heat and humidity is something that these guys are used to. And they didn't seem very bothered by it. You could tell in the way that they came out and approached the match against LAFC. I think they'll take a lot of confidence from that result, although they'll be disappointed they gave up 2 goals. You're going against the best team in the league. I know I'm Carlos Vela in that situation, but it is still a big challenge, and I think they proved a lot, not just to the league, but to themselves in that moment. So I think the Dynamo are definitely a team that could, I would pick them to go through at this point.
All right, well, let's shift it over to LAFC.
Can I just say one more thing about Memo, by the way? I know we have an allotted time.
I know.
But I saw Matt Doyle compare him to Frank Lampard, which I understand from the runs in the box, from the deep lying runs. I think the better comparison might be another Houston guy, Stuart Holden, as far as a guy that has a little bit more of the technical ability, the willingness to work back and defend, a little bit of scrap to his game, but then also has the quality on the other side. And Stu knows how to make some deep lying runs in the box. We've seen him get involved in goals and then also ball striking. So I know Stuart at 24 was already going to Bolton in the Premier League, but I think that would be a good model for Memo to follow.
I like it. I'd like to hear what Stu has to say about that.
Yeah,
all right, well, let's shift it over to LAFC, and we have Bradley Wright Phillips and Bob Bradley after the game. Let's hear their thoughts.
For me personally, when I've watched this team play, there's more tempo. It's obviously the first game, so those things will take a few games to come back. But I think the biggest problem was our tempo. I don't think we kind of played the way they wanted to play. They wanted to slow the game down, and I think we fell into that trap early in the game. I think second half, you see, we came out a bit sharper.
I think around the box, we forced some passes, we forced some crosses. When a team is deep, when we have the ball, our decisions around the box, our ways of playing inside, but also when they're packed in deep, those little passes off the edge, decisions when to cross, when to play back and start again. Those are things that I thought in the first half weren't as good as they needed to be.
So, I mean, you kind of heard Bob Bradley say it. The first half defensively looked a little precarious for LAFC, and I know that this game was ages ago, but this is the second consecutive game for LAFC where they have shipped 3 goals. What was the difference for them defensively in the second half?
Well, I think they just imposed their will, and they were better on the ball. And then I think LAFC is content to play, even from watching Bob's press conference. He didn't seem too bothered by it. I think they are content to play their style of play. They are not going to change it, and they're going to push high, and they're going to counter press. And at times, if that leaves defenders in a 1v1 situation in the back or things looking a little bit stretched, he's willing to go into that proposition and bet on his defenders to make a play. That's something we've seen in the past with Walker Zimmerman. Now that's what they're being asked of doing with Eddie Segura and Jakovic. So that's something that's going to continue to happen. But they were much better in the second half, even without Carlos Vela. They have so much going forward.
They can score in bunches.
Latif Blessing was fantastic all night, and I think made a couple mistakes defensively, granted, but as far as even being the facilitator and finding that final ball, somebody that could twist and turn in tight spaces and then pick the right pass, he was fantastic. And then BWP as well. That looks like a good signing where he's going to just be able to stay in the box and finish the action, and we know he's good at that.
Yeah, his goal last night put him at 7 all-time in the MLS goal list. He passed Jason Kreis. He's got 109 career total. So well done, Bradley Wright Phillips. Look at that. He's in quite the company, man.